Hey, Fred Minnick here, and over the years, I have loved going to distilleries, walking into a warehouse, using a whiskey thief to draw bourbon out of the barrel and put it in a glass, and then picking one of those barrels that I've tasted. Oh, it's heavenly. If you've ever experienced it, I want to know about it. Put it in the comments section, some of the great private barrel experiences that you've enjoyed. Now, here's the sad news, is it could all go away. Now, this is something that people first heard about at my conference, the Repeal Day Expo, which broadcasted right here in on an unlisted link to viewers. I'm gonna play for you what was said. You're gonna hear clips from Senator Damon Thayer, the Senate Majority Leader in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the President of the Kentucky Distillers Association, Gregory. Take a listen. Thayer dropped the bomb on us that will require some very significant follow-up. And I just got to ask real quick, you're saying that, the Kentucky ABC is going to ban barrel picks? Is that just for the state, for restaurants and retailers for the state? Or are they trying to block everybody from getting a barrel pick in the Commonwealth of Kentucky?
Everybody. The Kentucky ABC interprets the law wrongly, in my view, but they are the regulatory agency. Every other governor before them, including the current governor's father, had no problem with barrel picks, but under the misbegotten leadership of our governor, they've interpreted the law to say that barrel picks are in fact not legal. They are not going to enforce it for the time being, but they put the onus on the KDA to get the legislature to put it in statute. Our legislative session begins on January 4th, goes for 60 days through April 15th. And it'll be, one of my top priorities to work with the KDA and other legislators to put in statute very clear language that barrel picks, barrel selects, whatever you want to call them, for stores, restaurants, individuals, etc., are in fact legal.
Now, the thing about what Damon Thayer is saying is that he is a politician, right? So he's going to have very different language and words that he uses, and everything's going to be kind of like a political angle. Now, here are some words from a more neutral party, but very subjective toward the interest of distillers. Gregory. Discussion from Senator Damon Thayer telling us about barrel picks getting, they're in jeopardy right now. And, Eric, you are the head of the KDA, and he said you're basically leading this whole deal and, keeping that from happening. So tell us what's going on.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, everybody, and happy Repeal Day. So first of all, let me say this up front. We're very happy to be working with the state ABC on this issue. And they are not opposed to barrel picks. They're wanting to make sure they're done legally. So the ABC notified us a few months ago that there's no statutory authority for a lot of the aspects of the barrel picks, like sampling and sales and tight house restrictions and things like that. So we've been working with them and several legislators to create language that we'll introduce in the session next year to put those on sound legal footing. And hopefully we'll get that passed. And it's our intention for that to include an emergency clause, so it will take effect upon the governor's signature. In the meantime, barrel picks are still going on, and the ABC is graciously considering this a grace period for us so we can seek a legislative fix.
And what I was told early on during this process was that if it was not passed by April 15th, then the Kentucky ABC would pause private barrel picks. I don't know where we are right now with the deadline. I have not been given any deadline. But those statements were from December 5th, 2021. We have since had two bills drop. Senator Thayer was a part of one of them, and that's Senate Bill 160. And then Representative Chad McCoy dropped one in the House, HB 500, so House Bill 500. Now, as it always is the case with politics, the jockeying begins. And right now, we have a major misinformation campaign happening with House Bill 500. There's a lot of people out there trying to say that House Bill 500 will not get private barrels passed. I think that's just absolutely not true. I think House Bill 500 is kind of like a smorgasbord of offerings for Kentucky distillers. But let me back up here for a second and talk. And there's a number right there that you can call to support House Bill 500. I'm going to talk more about that here in a minute. But let me back up for a moment and kind of give you some rationale behind the Kentucky ABC's desire to update the language of private barrel selections. First of all, there is no definition in Kentucky code for private barrel selections. So that right there is an issue if another state ever wants to challenge the action of private barrels. And believe me, you do have states out there like Virginia and Michigan that are very, very active legally with their ABCs, challenging retailers across the country doing shipments, and even challenging states with what they're doing in terms of getting with some of their laws. There's also federal issues as well. Even though there are vintage laws in North Carolina and Kentucky that allow a consumer to sell directly to a retailer or a bar, there have been federal memos out there to say that violates, some of the federal code. But it's kind of like it's also illegal for a state to allow for cannabis to be legal, but everyone kind of turns the blind eye on that. But anyway, so the issues at hand, it's a definition issue. There's also the issue of the amount that can be sampled. It violates, if you've ever done a private barrel pick, you sample a lot. Well, there's certain sample laws that violates in Kentucky code. It's also, a barrel is not a legal package to serve consumers with. And so that's one where, like, the legal package to serve consumers with is this right here, a bottle. And so if you do not serve someone in a legal package, they're arguing then it's not legal to do, period. And then another big thing that they are trying to say that barrel picks violate are the tied house laws. Tied house laws are basically when a distiller is influencing a retailer on what to do. Now, if you've ever been on a private barrel pick, which I hope you put in the comment section about what you've done and your experience, you know that the distiller has no say in what the retailer is doing, outside of maybe giving you a choice of barrels. But that's hardly dictating to a retailer. If anything, the retailer often says, I don't want these, give me something else. So I think a lot of that stuff is just they're being overly cautious. And I am trying to report on this and give information. I'm really trying to stay away from giving my opinion. I do want to break down the two different bills. So SB 160, which Senator Thayer is a part of that. He co-sponsored it. He didn't necessarily author it, but he co-sponsored it. That is coming in as an emergency act, which basically would an emergency bill. Which all that means, it doesn't mean like it's a state of emergency or anything like that. It means it's just kind of like legislative terminology that once it's passed, it goes directly to the governor's desk and he signs it. And so instead of waiting to come to the governor's desk to become law, which can take months, by the way, it happens right away. And so all SB 160 does is basically define what a private barrel selection is. That's it. It defines it. It's a bare bones bill that is really intended just to kind of save the day. Here's the problem, though, with the Kentucky legislature. They only do one alcohol bill per year. One alcohol bill per year. So the distillers, the wholesalers, the retailers, the wineries, the brewers, they often work together to create one kind of like packaged bill that they can all agree on. There's jockeying back and forth, don't get me wrong, but because of the dry counties here and agreeances that the senators and the representatives have with one another, and it's ridiculous, they will only vote on one alcohol bill per year. So that's why it is a snail's pace in Kentucky to get things done. HB 500, and again, I'm going to put this up here. That is the number you can call to support HB 500. You can also use that number to support HB or SB 160. But again, SB 160 is a bare bones kind of defining private label, private barrel selections. HB 500, which there's stories in the description for both bills, but HB 500 is essentially going to allow for distillery satellites. It's going to allow you to pick your barrel and buy it right there. It's going to allow for really special distillery only releases. And there, of course, I showed this earlier, but there are people who are adamantly against this. I reached out. The first people that come to mind are the wholesalers. I reached out to the folks from the Kentucky wholesalers side, and they said it was not them. I gotta say, whoever's kind of behind this, like some of the misinformation out there that HB 500 is going to take away private barrels. I mean, I just think that's dirty pool. Both bills are trying to protect the private barrel selection programs. The only difference is HB 500 is trying to add a bunch of additional things. And of course, Representative McCoy is from Bardstown, so he has an interest there. And also Damon Thayer owns a bourbon brand. He has an interest to protect these things too. So I think you have a community here that really wants to get behind something, and the distillers, they only get one crack at this a year. And HB 500 is essentially moving forward a lot of things that Napa Valley already gives to their wineries. I think what I have seen over the years is that they have always tried to get equal footing to Napa Valley. They're always trying to get equal footing with the tourism side. And the big issue with tourism right now is people are not coming back. I mean, they come back here and there, but they don't come back at the frequency that people go to Napa Valley. People come to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail as a bucket list, and then they, go on about their lives and kind of move on. And an HB 500 is kind of meant to, solve that issue. But SB 160, it's going to save the day right now. HB 500, in my opinion, gives bourbon a little bit more of an equal footing with some of the other alcohol tourist destinations. But at the end of the day, it is really silly that we have to have these conversations. But bourbon is highly regulated, and it's always going to be. But that's kind of like a little down and dirty of what's going on. I've got stories in the description. I would love to hear your opinion. Please read those stories. So obviously I probably didn't fit everything into this video, but please read those stories. Put in your opinion. Also read the stories from the wholesaler's perspective. They're very important in the equation of selling Kentucky bourbon. You can never forget that. And it's a matter of like, is there something that can make everybody happy? There very rarely is, but what is in the best interest of us, the bourbon consumer, and the people who own, cottage bourbon industries. The distillers, what they want. They want more revenue. They want more people coming in there. They want more people buying stuff. But I think, you have to look at these things from the consumer perspective. What do you want? Do you want to see satellite, tasting rooms? So you could have like a Kentucky Bourbon Trail tasting region in northern Kentucky, in Danville. Jim Beam could have like a special tasting room in Lexington, Louisville, Paducah, things like that. So you do you want to see that? Is that something that interests you? Do you want to see distillery only releases, or do you like things the way they are? I mean, because if that's cool, that's cool. If that's what you want, then that's cool. But you have a bare bones bill, and then you have something that's going to bring a lot of additional opportunities in the consumer side. And I think you've got to also look at it from a business perspective and understand where the wholesalers are coming from. So make sure you are reading that story as well in my description. But I also, full transparency, I picked private barrels like this one right here. Now, this one is not going to be in trouble. It was picked in Tennessee. It's a Jack Daniel's pick. But if you would like to get on my list, it's not at the moment, it is just an email list. If you would like to get emails, information about my private barrel picks, you can find a link in the description to sign up for that. Also, I put a link in the description to vote on the best bourbon around $40. That voting closes on February 28th. So if you watch this after that, then it's going to be too late. But that will be a live stream where I taste the top 10 out of that voting. But that's going to do it for this little rundown of what's going on with private barrel picks. Thanks for tuning in, and be safe out there, folks. Cheers.